Take it away, Sarah Fenster.
Thank you, Christine, for that introduction. So to start out my presentation, I wanted to just give some background. Most of you have met with me in a one-to-one and know me personally, but we'll start with that. So Anthony and I have been married for almost a year. Anniversary is on Sunday. And on May 25th, this past year, our daughter Annalise was born. So there's just some pictures from our wedding and our Christmas photo. We have 3 cats. And then some other things that I'm involved in is I've been playing clarinet for years and years. I continue to play with the Akron and Alden Community Band. And then Anthony and I met actually through our gym, through our weightlifting gym, and we continue to be actively involved with that. So my path to where I am right now, I put music as the first bullet point because that was always my path. That was always what I thought I would do with my life. Like I said, I played clarinet for years. And up until about February, my senior year of high school, I thought I'm going to be a music teacher. And then I drastically changed paths. And I ended up going to Binghamton University. I majored in geography and sociology. I was very interested in like mapping and the way that diseases spread and that kind of field. So from there, I worked for the American Red Cross through the AmeriCorps program, and I worked on disaster response. So when there was flooding, I would help coordinate people to go and take care of cleanup and mental health services and things like that. And that was an awesome, really exciting job, but I really wanted something that would help me elevate both in terms of my profession and my salary. So I looked into law school, and I came back to Western New York and went to UB Law School. After UB, I worked for a large local law firm doing commercial litigation, so like business disputes and things like that. And that was exciting and great until it wasn't anymore. And then I had this great opportunity to go and start working for my parents and take over their firm, and that's where I am now. So like I said, my parents started the firm back when I was 5 years old, and I've really kind of grown up being involved with the law firm, which was both a blessing and a curse. So it made me not want to go to law school because I saw the hardship of running a business, but at the same time I knew that it was a great career and a great business. So the law firm continued to grow and expand. We mostly were in Lancaster, but then since then it has moved to the Williamsville area. And right now there's 5 attorneys and there's 6 legal assistants and paralegals. We're actually looking to hire because we are getting very busy, so hopefully that number will increase. Our focus, as most of you know, is really exclusively on estate work. So we do estate planning and estate administration, and that kind of runs the gamut from, simple documents all the way to more complicated Medicaid planning, estate tax planning, things like that. And I have just a few notes here on what makes us different. So first of all, we are a boutique practice, and we really limit our practice area, and we do that on purpose, just like some of our other attorneys in the room, is that because we specialize in just estate matters, we're really, really educated, and we can react properly to different needs. We don't try and do it all because then we wouldn't be servicing our clients well. We also have flat fees for most of our work, and we try and have really competitive rates. We don't want someone to have to spend a few $1,000s to get their will in place. That's not fair to the client, and it's not necessary. So we try and be very transparent with our rates and try and keep them as low as we can while still operating our business. We have really strong attorney involvement. So at some larger firms, you'll end up working with a paralegal or a brand new associate, and that's not always the best for the client in the end. So we try and make sure that the attorney on the file is involved from the first meeting all the way through the, finalizing the plan. And then finally, we're really dedicated to follow-up. So we don't just kind of hand you documents and say, have fun with these. We try and make sure you understand every word in the document and know what your homework is to make sure that everything is coordinated properly. Those are the 5 attorneys. That picture was taken when I was like 2 weeks postpartum, so I'm kind of embarrassed about it. But there's Christina Good, who's all the way on the left. My parents are the next 2, me, and then Richard Murphy, who's a new attorney that recently joined us. So I'm going to kind of dive in and talk a little bit about what exactly it is when I say I'm an estate attorney. So estate planning is really the preparation of documents to allow someone to control what happens to their property during their life and then after they pass away. And control is really the important word there, which is why I have it italicized, is that if you don't do anything, there's New York State laws that can kind of cover what happens if you become incapacitated or if you pass away. But that's not always what you want, and it's not always the easiest path for you or your family. So to make sure that you get to decide what happens to your things, we can do powers of attorney. That allows someone to make financial decisions while you're alive, but you're unable. We do wills, trust, and then we coordinate beneficiary designations. And I talk about that almost every week. A will and a trust that allows you to pick the people that you trust to take care of your assets for you. It also allows you to decide where they go. Not everyone wants to give everything to their family members. Some people have charitable inclinations, or they may have friends or other non-immediate relatives that they want to give things to. So that's where you can lay out your exact wishes in those documents. I have clients that literally come to me with pages of information that they want in their will. This gold watch to this person, this painting to that person, and that's great. If you have those strong requests, you should make sure that they're done properly. And then I said, without estate planning, there's default New York rules that apply, and that's called intestacy, if you die without a will. And very generally, New York State says that your assets go to your bloodline. So if you have a spouse, it would go to your spouse. If you have a spouse and children, it goes partially to your spouse, partially to your children. If you don't have a spouse or children, it goes to your parents and your sisters and brothers. So it just kind of follows your bloodline. And then if you don't have any relatives within, a certain threshold, so within cousins and things like that, then it all goes to New York State. So it's really important if someone says, I don't know, I might have a second cousin somewhere, but I don't really think I have any blood relatives. That is critical that you have estate planning done. And believe it or not, that's more common than you think. I have several clients who don't have any relatives and they want to leave everything to their church and their neighbor and whoever, but without those documents in place, everything would end up going to New York State. The other thing that's a negative about letting these default New York State rules apply is you don't get to control who handles your estate. So there's kind of a pecking order, a list of people who can apply to be the administrator of your estate, and it might be your spouse and your children. But let's say you really trusted your cousin or your neighbor or another trusted person with your estate. They may not be in that pecking order. And then finally, I talk a lot about asset protection and Medicaid planning, and this is a whole other area where I could talk for hours on it. But just generally what that means is you're arranging your assets in a way where you can try and apply for Medicaid and have Medicaid cover your long-term care needs. So it's using trusts, gifting, and other techniques to try and take things out of your name so they're not at risk down the line if you do need nursing home coverage. So that's pretty much everything I mean when I say I handle estate planning. And then estate administration is kind of the second half of my job. That's what happens after someone passes away. So when someone passes away, they'll either have a will, which goes through the probate process at the court, and that's to get your executor appointed so they have authority to sell your house and close bank accounts and do things like that. If there's no will, it's called the administration process. It's very similar. Someone applies to the surrogate's court to get authority so they can handle your assets. And then you'll hear a lot of people saying they want to avoid probate, or their goals are probate avoidance, and that's just other ways to get assets from you to your family members or whoever your beneficiaries are. So when we say we're avoiding probate, that's people who want to avoid the court process. The probate process or the administration process through the surrogate's court can be very simple if your family structure is simple, or it can be extremely expensive and time-consuming if there's any issues. Let's say there's a relative that's been kind of disowned from your family, no one knows where they live, or there's someone who's disabled and they can't represent themselves. So people want to avoid probate for a variety of different personal reasons, but it's all just to avoid the cost and the time of the court process. And to do that, you can make sure there's beneficiaries. So if you have life insurance, you tell Ryan, make sure my wife and then my kids are on my beneficiary accounts. If you have an IRA, you tell Chris, you say, make sure I have beneficiaries on there. If you have a deed to your house, you can add your children on your deed to make sure it goes to them automatically rather than go through the court. So there's a lot of different techniques that we work with clients to make sure things are streamlined and as simple and cost-effective as possible after you pass away. And then finally, I'm just going to go through and talk about good clients for me and good referral sources. So my firm does very little active marketing. This is really one of the only things we do to try and get out in the community with marketing, because most of our clients come from word-of-mouth referrals from current clients. We also work really closely with other professionals like financial advisors, accountants, other attorneys, and social workers to get clients who need our services. So introductions to any of those people are really, really good because that can lead to a lot of other referrals and other business. But other good clients, if you just know of people that fit these circumstances, these people usually need some estate planning, or if they have estate planning already, you want to, make sure everything's in order. So any families with minor children, blended families, individuals that don't have relatives, individuals who have property in multiple states, so New York and Florida, for instance. anyone who has a disabled family member, or retired individuals who have savings that they want to protect. So those are all really good clients for me and really good referral sources. So that's everything I have for today. Does anyone have any questions for me? All right, thank you.